published 1730 est, the 11th of November 2017, updated 1916 est, the 11th of November 2017. The lads climbed the stairs to the small empty stand that stood next to the astroturf pitch and walked in a long line along the front row to the far end. A few sat down and plonked their cans of beer on the ledge in front of them. Others decided they would the game standing up. There were about 15 of them. They were already in good spirits, if you get my euphemism. They had played the match earlier in the afternoon and now they wanted to have some fun. They shouted out words of encouragement to the women hockey players from the university who were warming up under the floodlights. They were a particularly loud and doltish bunch, and when the game began, they started to pepper the comments with innuendo. "Spread it wide," one of them shouted as the team attacked in the first half. Several of the lads nearly wet themselves with self-congratulatory hilarity. Sexism in sports still appears to be rife. Even in events played at university levels, the support continued throughout the game in a similar vein. Fearing, perhaps, that they had not yet drawn quite enough attention to themselves, one produced a ghetto blaster, which started pumping out a rap with misogynistic lyrics. The boys grew particularly animated when Robbie Williams' Angels came on. They belted out the line "She offered me protection" with exaggerated gusto and collapsed in stitches when one of them said he would rather go back soon. The umpire, a dignified man who had been officiating the game superbly, walked over and asked them to turn the off. After the match, I spoke to the umpire for a little while and asked him if he came across this kind of behavior often. He said he did. He said that it was not uncommon for men's teams to stick around after the university matches to cheer on the women's sides. He said that the support often took the form of aiming crude insults at women on the opposing university team. He said there was even a protocol for dealing with that kind of abuse. If it became particularly bad, the captain of the side being supported would be asked to call the abuse to a halt. The umpire said, if that failed to work, she would be cautioned or sent off. None of the students on either team seemed upset by the lads' behavior at the game one ed. They had been concentrating on the match. It was background noise, as far as they were concerned. When the lads piled back onto the minibus, a couple of the girls they had been supporting popped their heads inside the door to thank them. So maybe you'll say that if only a few of the girls heard the ribaldry and if none of them were particularly offended, then where's the problem? And maybe you'd be right. The lads certainly weren't targeting individual players from the opposing side in the way the umpire had witnessed in the past. They were just immature kids having a laugh. Eva Carnero, Chelsea's former team doctor, has spoken out on ism in football's dispiriting part about it was that it was a brief snapshot of an English sporting culture where ism and misogyny is still rife. I know this is pathetically naive, but I thought that in the younger generation, in particular, that kind of attitude would be dying out. These were educated students, supposedly, and here they were behaving like a group of old boys who had seen a bit too much thigh. None of this will come as a surprise to a lot of sportswomen. It is something they have always had to put up with. It seems more jarring now, which is a good thing, but you only need to look at social media if there is a discussion about women's football to realize quite how much men in this country still seem to feel threatened by the idea of women playing sport. Like those lads in the stand, they cannot women's sport and support the team they have come to cheer in the same way they would if it were a men's game. They have to trivialize it and demean it because they are too small and too limited to take it seriously. It remains, sadly, a prominent contour in the English sporting landscape. But there is a postscript. Some of the women in the side I had gone to are only a few weeks into their first term at university, and already they have forged a formidable team spirit. Already, sport is a cornerstone of their student existence. Already, it has helped them settle in. Some of them are sure they have found friends for life among the teammates. They are looking out for each other on and off the pitch. They are supporting each other, which is what team sport teaches you to do. On the afternoon last week when I had them play, they exuded strength and togetherness and happiness and purpose. That is the best message, I suppose. Misogyny is not cowing women any longer. It is empowering them. They are either ignoring it or bringing it down. It is all that matters, really, not the pathetic, puerile, pubescent preening of a group of morons in a stand at a university sports ground who had neither the wit nor the maturity to know any better. England's draw with Germany on Friday night was a victory for Gareth Southgate. He made some big statements in the build-up about the way he wanted to play, and his young team did not let him down. The performance of Ruben Loftus-Cheek quite rightly commanded most of the headlines, and there are some promising signs that the manager's options are improving just in time for the World Cup. Midfield is England's Achilles heel, and Loftus-Cheek and Harry Winks, who missed the game through injury, have at least provided some hope that the situation is becoming more healthy. Ruben Loftus-Cheek produced a brilliant display on his England debut against Germany amid all the talk of the battle David Moyes faces to rescue his reputation after his appointment as West Ham manager last week. The mismanagement of the club by Karen Brady, David Gold and David Sullivan is finally facing some scrutiny too. The triumvirate of Brady and the men, recently labelled the Dildo Brothers by Sporting Lisbon executives, have ripped the heart out of the club by moving it from Upton Park to the dead zone of the London Stadium in the name of ambition and profit. Now, as always in football, it is the fans who are paying the price. They may not be overjoyed by the recruitment of Moyes, but he is a good manager who has the best chance of salvation. A club that used to be many fans' favourite second team is now one of the game's lost souls. Part of Brady's legacy is that most neutrals no longer care whether West Ham stay up or go down. When it comes to trying to salvage a reputation, she's a long way behind Moyes. West Ham's owners are under scrutiny due to the club's recent Premier League struggle. Anti-doping's fear that they could be made insolvent by the protracted dispute with Tyson Fury over his positive test for the banned steroid nandrolona in June 2016 raises all manner of worrying issues about the fight against performance-enhancing drugs. UKAD, which has an annual budget of only £8 million, is worried Fury will sue them for loss of earnings if he is cleared. The fact they're concerned begs the question whether they feel they can take on the most powerful figures in sport if they test positive. If Britain is serious about the war on drugs, we need to increase UKAD's funding. UK anti-doping are involved in a protracted dispute with Tyson Fury, right?